Showtime.
Facts on tracks. We're gonna break some vinyl down from the front to the back with facts on tracks.
Welcome to Breaking Vinyl. I'm your host, Ez, aka Johnny Fever. And as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First up, the podcaster, coming through in high fidelity, Evil Ed. What's up, Ed?
How you doing, guys?
All right, back from vacation. All is good?
It was a wonderful vacation. A lot of traveling now. Exhausted.
All right. And last but not least, the podcaster, playing the deep cuts, B-Side Dave. What's up, Dave?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. All right, tonight we will be discussing Van Halen's first studio offering. The self-titled album, Van Halen, is the band's debut studio album released on February 10th, 1978 by Warner Brothers. Van Halen was a major commercial success. It is widely regarded as one of the greatest debut albums of all times. The album peaked at number 19 on the US Billboard 200 and sold more than 10 million copies in the United States. Van Halen received the Diamond certification by the RIAA. Okay, the band lineup is as follows. Lead vocals, Diamond David Lee Roth. Lead and rhythm guitars, Eddie Van Halen. Drums, Alex Van Halen. Bass and backing vocals, Michael Anthony. All right, so let's get some fun facts rocking here. Fun fact number one. The group recorded the album in just 3 weeks, and most of it was done with very few overdubs. Very impressive. David Lee Roth said this is probably his favorite Van Halen album, and I probably agree. The cover photos were taken at LA's Whiskey A Go Go, a club that I have actually played twice. Dave, do you have any fun facts on Van Halen?
Sure. Yeah, it was recorded at Sunset Sound Recorders in Los Angeles, which still exists today.
Nice.
Music for classic Disney movies was recorded there, as well as rock giants like the Doors and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, very cool. Ed, what do you got on this album?
I think a big major fact, and it kind of just blew my mind. They recorded this entire album for $40,000.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. We all know the Gene Simmons story.
Yep.
Of how he was working with them, trying to get them signed with the demo that he made, and he wound up going on tour with Kiss. Didn't happen. They wound up playing a couple gigs in their hometown, and from there they wound up playing and got discovered by Ted Templeton. I can't remember the other person's name. I didn't write it down, unfortunately. And basically the rest is history, because beast of an album.
Yeah, it was a joy to listen to and to break down. Let's share some opening thoughts on this one. I will get us started. I probably only heard what was offered on the radio from this album at the time, driving around with my dad or whatever. And it would be a couple more years until I would actually dig into this album. Probably like maybe 13, summer of 14 or something. And I have listened to this album more times than I can count, as I'm sure you two have. And I got a question for you guys. Do you prefer Van Halen or Van Hagar, Dave?
Oh, there's no question. David Lee Roth is the man.
Yeah. Okay. And Ed?
Depends on my mood.
Oh, God.
I'll put 5150 in the summer against this album.
No, stop. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Nope.
not happening. So here's the thing. I think the mistake Van Halen made. Okay. Because I do appreciate Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, but I think that they should have called the band something different. It was an opportunity. I think they could have been called 5150 or whatever it is. It shouldn't have been Van Halen, because then you're forced to compare it with David Lee Roth's version, and there is no comparing it. David Lee Roth's version of Van Halen smashes Sammy Hagar's version into fucking toothpaste every single time. So,
Mhm.
and that's just
Well,
my opinion.
they're two different bands, though.
Oh, it's that, but that's what I'm saying. They are two different bands, so they shouldn't have called it
Yeah,
Van Halen. They should have called it
yeah.
something else.
But I mean, like, we all knew Sammy getting involved would be more poppy, less
Oh yeah,
edge.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. And I mean, 5150 is a great album, absolutely, but it's not this. And it's like trying to compare, you know,
definitely not.
it's like trying to compare, Motley Crue with John Corabi with Motley Crue with Vince Neil. Yeah, like, yeah, maybe John Corabi's a better singer than Vince Neil, but I didn't like it. And honestly, I mean, Gary Sharon and Hagar are both probably better, technically better singers than David Lee Roth. But again, no thank you. I'll pass. Um, so let's get some opening thoughts, Ed, on this album.
This is just this funny. So I didn't really hear this album until I was older. I remember, like, I think the first Van Halen album I heard was 1984,
Mm,
and I loved it. I love 1984, and I think it's just because that was my introduction to him. And
sure.
then as I get older and started hanging out with kind of the crew that I hang out with now, and have had this whole musical experience with them, um, I discovered all these older Van Halen albums. And when I heard this album, I was just like, "Whoa!" I
Yeah.
mean, it blew me away. It first off, I didn't realize Michael Anthony could actually play bass, because by the time 1984 rolled around, it felt like everyone was stepping on his throat to just quarter notes throughout. And you hear this, and Michael Anthony is destroying, I
Dude,
mean,
totally.
monster lines.
I'm so glad you said that because yeah, it is an outlier in Van Halen this album. They cut Michael Anthony loose on this album, not just as a bass player, but as a vocalist as well. Um, Dave, what are your thoughts on this album?
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing, working my way back from, about that 1984 period when you first, discovered uh, Van Halen, started listening to him, worked my way back to the earlier albums. But I've listened to this so many times since high school, as a young man learning guitar, definitely essential listening. Wasn't there at the beginning, but, been familiar with this for a long time.
Okay. So let's get into the track breakdown. First song is Running with the Devil. I'll take this. So the whole band is credited for writing this song. Roth wrote a lot of the lyrics, and it was surprising to me how deep his lyrics are because, you think of David Lee Roth and you think of, kind of bubblegum and kind of happy lyrics and kind of shallow, guy gets the girl, woo. But this album is pretty deep and fairly dark. And it's one of the reasons it's my favorite Van Halen record. Um, Eddie Van Halen, he's breaking ground everywhere on this album. Um, which is what made him so great. Starting like with that, I mean, you guys, especially Dave, you'll understand this, where he like runs the pick across the strings above the locking nut. Like when I learned how to do that, I was like, yeah, my first lick. You know what I mean? It's like that was so cool. And it's the beginning of the song. Um, I like the choice to pan the guitar solo on this opening track all the way hard to one side. It's a great solo. It makes it very easy to read. I don't always like that. I sometimes like running it at like 3 o'clock or something, but for this one, it really worked. And on this album, Eddie Van Halen hadn't gotten like completely finger tap happy, if you guys know what I mean. He was still playing some like, heavily blues influenced rock and roll guitar on this, which is my favorite Eddie Van Halen. In later Van Halen, when he started really exploring the keyboards and had really just gone so heavy into the finger tapping on every single solo he played. It's kind of goes back to like the Perry Farrell thing. It's like once you start overdoing it and using the seasoning too much, I just lose my taste for it. And that's kind of what happened later with Eddie for me. So this album for me is just it's magic for Eddie. And David Lee Roth, style for days, but it's Michael Anthony's background vocal harmonies on this album that makes David Lee Roth shine. Not that Roth isn't great, but without Michael Anthony backing him up on this album, it is not the same album. It's
Yeah.
not. And I wish on just this one song, David dialed back all of the improv screaming that he did. Because, I mean, people joke about it to this day. This track was over the top with that. And I'm going to give him a pass because it's 1978 and he was developing his style. So this is a retrospect observation I'm making. And Michael Anthony's bass playing is so solid and exceptional, but his bass sound is a bit suspect. For the lack of a better word, it gets a little farty in spots, and it's just the sound. It's not the playing. It just gets a little in spots. And I've never been a big Alex Van Halen fan, from his snare sound to his choice of fills. Just never, I don't know. He just didn't feel like it felt a little wishy-washy to me, whatever it is. But after listening to this album for the podcast and really like listening to what he was doing, I definitely gained a new appreciation for what he does, but was definitely never one of my favorite drummers. So yeah, that was kind of my thought with the opening song. Dave, what did you think of Running with the Devil?
It's great. Uh, it opens up with those are actually car horns that they used to they sort of DIY'd, some car horns from a junkyard hooked up to a car battery, and that they would have during their shows as sort of like a hey, pay attention to us kind of deal. And they put that on the record, and
That's
they
so cool.
would mess with the the varispeed on the tape recorder to get that change in pitch where it's
Oh, that's so cool. You know what? I wondered what that was. That's so insightful.
oh
Wow,
yeah,
great,
yeah.
great fact, dude. That's excellent.
It's a great opener to the album. I don't know if you ever have heard the isolated vocal from
Oh yeah,
Dave
of
that's
course.
made it out around the internet. It's fantastic. But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about him, hooting and hollering. It's
Um,
it's pretty amusing to hear.
Dave, I think that's one of my problems with it was just that somebody isolated and put it out there. So it's one of those things you can't unhear. And then when you go back and listen to the track, it kind of like makes your ears pop up a little bit, but it's fine.
Woo!
It's fine.
Hey,
It's fine.
hey!
Is that what you got? You got anything else?
Oh yeah.
Keep going, man.
I thought it was brave of Eddie to not come out of the gate spitting fire with his guitar, but to go melodic,
Definitely.
with this solo. And the Michael Anthony vocals are already essential. The first song, here you go. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So you heard that solo the same way I did. It was just nice. It just it teed him up for the rest of the album. Ed,
Right.
what did you think of Running with the Devil?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think the solo in this is just fantastic. Like Dave said, I think it's a perfect opening song for an album. It's just enough where you're like, holy crap. But also, I listen to this song and, this might be more of an album versus song comment, but it almost feels like this was the Nirvana moment of the day.
Mm-hmm.
This album kind of changed where everything was going. Because honestly, by the time I got done listening to this and really picking apart the entire album, I felt like, wow, this is very 50s based, a lot of 50s based with the lyrics, the music, but the next step, and transitioning away from the punk, which is just kind of like the hard reset for everything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But really, the punch and the groove in this song are just to die for.
Yeah.
I really dig it.
Say you're right. This forced bands to play better after this came out.
Yeah, really. I mean, it set the bar for everybody where everyone was like, oh shit. I mean, David Lee Roth, just not a great singer, but he changed it for performance. Like, you need to now work as a singer. Here's what you need to own the show.
Put on a show.
Eddie Van
Yeah.
Halen, everybody. And honestly, I can't say enough. Like you both said, I think Michael Anthony isn't credited enough with Van Halen. Because if, like you said, if it weren't for him on this album would not be the same.
Oh, not even close, man. It's
Nope.
those buttery backgrounds and just, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And one more little fact there. Supposedly the lyrics were inspired by an old Ohio Players tune, Running from the Devil.
Yeah, I didn't read that. I read that it was written about a young band coming up and, learning the road. So I guess
Goes to show
folklore.
you, everyone's different opinion because no one actually talks to the band, right?
Right. It's lore. You guys want me to give Dave a call real quick?
Sure.
Okay. All right, this is David Dave here. All right, that sucked. Next track on this is you'll be getting no rebate for that. The next track on this is Eruption. Ed, what do you think of Eddie's moment here?
You know what? I like it because I think the way it transitions into the next song is just great. However, it's a guitar solo. It's I think it's probably the first just ever recorded guitar solo that was on an album as a track that I can remember or think of.
Yeah.
That I personally heard. But funny story, when I was listening to that, my algorithm changed, and all of a sudden I got this video of a dude playing the bass track behind it, and it is the funniest thing because Mike Langley does like 4 notes.
Oh shit!
Just the big brown, and then he just kind of drinking stuff, and I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, oh my god, this is priceless. Thank you, internet.
That's fucking great. Yeah. So of course, like you said, this is one of the first iconic, just guitar hero moments on a record. I'm sure Jimi Hendrix probably did it a little different, but I'm just guessing. I don't know. But Eddie's sound slaps hard on this one. Like this is that guitar sound that like you hadn't heard this sound yet. So that's what makes this just so iconic. Every guitar player wants to learn it. Everybody wants to play it. And this track put him on the top of the mountain as a full-blown guitar hero on the rise. I mean, 100%. Dave, what did you think? And can you play this?
I can attempt to, but yeah,
Yeah.
might
Okay.
not do it justice.
I
But
hear
this is the Star Spangled Banner of shred
you.
guitar right here.
Mhm.
This set the benchmark for the entire '80s for rock and metal guitar playing. Um, Eddie was practicing for a gig that they had coming up and just messing around in the studio, and the engineer or the producer came in and whoa, what's that? And they decided to record it, put it on tape, and put it on the album. This
Wow.
is sort of the first uh, big display of two-hand tapping, where you had a couple guys have done it before. Billy Gibbons and Brian May would sort of just dabble, maybe like hit one note here or there where they're bing. But this is the first full-on musical use of this, where it just sounds like he's taken off into outer space, and
Oh,
you're
fuck
flying
yeah.
through the galaxy. um,
Yeah.
he's using effects. He's got a Univox echo unit at the end where he kicks in. He used to put it in an old World War II practice bomb, and it would sit on stage, and kick that in and just sort of ride out the end of the solo. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Dave, do you know if Randy Rhoads was influenced by this, like with his solo in Crazy Train?
From what I've heard, I mean, they were kind of contemporary, where Randy felt like he had to sort of, Eddie was out, and he sort of felt like, okay, this is what people expect. People expect this guitar hero stuff, so I have to kind of, uh, not necessarily compete, but just sort of give people some of that. Um, but they sort of had different ish styles, so it wasn't a real thing like where it was like, oh, I don't like that guy or anything like that. But he just sort of felt like he needed to sort of keep up with the Joneses.
Sure. I
So,
mean,
Yeah, totally.
obvious. Go ahead, Ed.
No, I was agreeing with Dave. I mean, I was fortunate enough. I bought that Randy Rhoads documentary that I think Xfinity did or whatever, and it was great. And they actually mentioned the whole Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads thing, and it really. I think it was more people making a thing of it than they ever made a thing of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there was plenty of room for both of them at that point. But yeah, I mean, you really, when you hear the guitar solo for Crazy Train, I mean, one of them had to invent it because I mean, it's Eddie Van Halen or it's Eddie Van Halen doing Randy Rhoads. I mean, it's the exact same technique, right around the exact same
It's,
era. So
it,
okay,
although Randy actually taps in especially in that a different way than
he
Eddie does.
does.
Just the way he's playing, and a lot of times he taps with his pick rather
Hmm,
than as we're getting into guitar nerd stuff here, but
yeah.
he's tapping with his pick rather than his index finger.
Right, and it definitely has a little bit more of a rock and roll sound, I think, Randy, and he's also able to kind of bend the note up while he's tapping like he does in Crazy Train, which is cool. So yeah, I enjoy both of their styles.
also don't forget the whole Quiet Riot Randy.
Right.
Not
Yeah,
that they
the
had any great songs, but Randy still played like a beast back then.
Hell
oh
yeah, he
yeah,
did, man. You
same
gotta
scene, that LA club scene.
yeah, you have to wonder where he would have gone, but that's for another show. Um, all right. So everybody got their chomp on that. Let's go to "You Really Got Me." This is the Kinks cover song. So, Dave, what did you think of this one?
Well, it's way better than the Kinks version. I'll tell
Oh,
you
fuck yeah,
that.
sure is.
I heard when I was doing my research that the Kinks, uh, when they play it later on, they're being funny and they introduce it as a Van Halen song when they play
Oh,
it in concert.
that's great.
Um, it was the first single off the album. They had to rush it out because at one point after they had recorded it, Eddie had played it for a guy in another band called Angel, and just as buddies hanging out, and I guess they had, oh, we're gonna do this too, and then they were in competition to try to rush uh who was going to get their version out first. uh,
Interesting.
but yeah, it's a
Interesting.
cool song.
Ed, what did you think of the cover?
Normally, I'm not a fan of covers being released on an album,
I'm
but
with you.
I think they really set the bar for if you're going to do it, you better do it like significantly better than the original. And I love the Kinks, but Van Halen destroyed the song. They did such a wonderful job with it. Um, and I think it was this the first release off this album,
Yes.
I believe?
Hmm.
Yes. And the band was very
I think it
unhappy
was
about it.
also I think it was also the Kinks' first release that also got them noticed. So how ironic.
Yeah, the band was very upset that the label decided to release a cover song first. They did not want this one to be the first release, but they had no choice. So, and it was very good. And quite honestly, I think maybe the first time I heard this, I probably just thought it was Van Halen. So, you know what I mean? I probably didn't even know it was a Kink song in 79 when I heard it for the first time. So, yeah. I'm with you guys. I don't like cover songs on albums really, unless they're fucking slamming. And it's always best if it's a slightly obscure song, so you don't really know it. Which this wasn't. I mean, the Kinks. This was a classic, but it's fine. I don't really have much else to say about it. So let's move on to track 4 on the album. Ain't Talking About Love. Oh God, how I love this fucking song. Um, so we instantly get that classic Eddie Van Halen sound. And Dave, I know you know a lot about this stuff, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this was made up of a cranked Marshall amp with a phasing MXR Phase 90 and an Echoplex tape delay. Is that correct?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember if it was the Phase 90 or a flange on it,
Right.
MXR flanger, because he used both.
Right. Right. What a great fucking guitar sound on this song in particular. It's just like, oh, you hear one note and you're like, okay, I know that song. The breakdown is one of the most iconic moments recorded on a rock record. And Dave's lyrics are just fire here. And they're those kinds of lyrics that you are forced to sing every time you hear this song. You know, I stood at the edge. And it's fucking amazing. This solo is panned left and right. It's two guitar tracks playing over each other, which Eddie doesn't do a ton. And I really liked it on this one. You know, there's a couple nice little harmonies and a couple licks that play over each other that work really well. Um, I'm sure both of you guys have covered this in bands before. One of my bands covered this for about a year, a band that I was the singer in. So I really enjoyed doing this one. And this is one of my favorite drum tracks on the album. They panned his toms really nice. Like you'll notice they're sweeping from left to right and right to left. And yeah, I thought Alex shined on this song in particular. Um, so what did you think about this one, Ed?
Yeah, this is just, it's a monster song. It's full, it's energetic, the lyrics are great, the music is massive. And like you said, we've all played this. I think I've played this probably 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Um, you know, because it's just so fun. And you know what? They're just between the bass chords, the guitar, the harmonies, just it really just it has this energy, and it just really just every time I play it, I never get sick of it. It's just it's
Never.
that much fun. Honestly, I this is probably a top 10 Van Halen song for me, if not top 5.
Yes.
I love it so much. You know, this is also one of the few songs that Sammy would sing when they toured from the Dave era. So,
Hmm.
you know, it's got something to say about the song if another singer is willing to sing it.
Yeah, it's a song that the crowd demands to hear when Van Halen is
Absolutely.
playing, no matter who is on the mic. Dave, what did you think in Talking About Love?
Yep. They wrote this as sort of a parody of, you know, the punk rock that was happening at the time. You know, sort of just, you know, poking fun at it a little bit. But it kind of turned into, it went beyond that. You know, it's the whole song is 2 chords. Um, and then we talked about, you know, sort of the creative use of, you know, guitar effects with the echo and the, you know, flange or the phase. And he actually doubled the solo with an electric sitar.
Oh,
It
cool.
wasn't another guitar, but that's where you get that, you know, kind of different sound. But yeah, he didn't do a lot of overdubbing just because they were a club band. They were used to doing everything live, and you know, so that was not something they wanted to explore too much as far as the overdubs.
Oh, dude, that sitar fact is so cool because
Yeah,
I mean the solo really stands out on the album as being a little different.
Absolutely.
And that's why. Man, you're bringing the fire today, Dave.
this is the shit I know about.
Okay, well, keep bringing it because it's fucking interesting as fuck with the car horn and shit. I mean, God, where's this stuff been? I want more. Is that what you got? Are you all done with that one?
I'm all set.
Okay. Track 5, I'm the One. Dave, go ahead. Tell us what you think of this song.
All right. Rock and roll boogie is a specialty of Van Halen. You know, nobody does this kind of, you know, kind of feel of a song, you know, like they do. That's kind of their thing. Um, don't really know where they got that style from. I guess maybe you know, because their dad was a jazz musician. They used to play. Alex and Eddie used to, you know, sit in with the jazz band. Um, you know, there's whammy bar stuff, you know, pick scrapes, tapping. You sort of pulling out the entire bag of tricks on here. Um, you know, there's a whole discussion about how underrated, you know, Eddie is with his rhythm guitar playing, not just the wild solo stuff, but just the actual rhythm guitar. You know,
Right.
breaking out that Phase 90 phaser pedal,
So
and
cool.
then, you know, all of a sudden in the middle of the song, there's a, you know, barbershop style vocal break,
There
you know,
is.
which is it's a little wacky, but you know, it works for them. You know, that's kind of the Van Halen thing. They don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah. I've got a hot take on this one. So
Uh-oh.
on this track, Eddie is playing literally out of his fucking mind for 1978. Like this is probably one of his best guitar solos ever.
Mm-hmm.
And and what's really interesting is it sounds all right. So this is where Nuno Betancourt got his influence. I don't care. This song, this solo resembles the solo on Do You Want to Play by Extreme. And that solo on Do You Want to Play is it's so greasy. I mean, it is so fucking greasy. Go back and listen to it, and you'll be like, "Holy shit, Nuno Betancourt's a guitar god."
Oh yeah,
But
he's always been a big Van Halen guy.
oh fuck yeah! But listen to this track back again, like after the podcast, and think about "Do You Want to Play?" and listen to some of these licks that Eddie Van Halen is playing on this song. They are fucking decades ahead of his time,
Oh yeah.
and he's playing over his head on this one, in my opinion. He's playing licks on this one in particular song we're not going to hear again on the entire album. And it was like he caught lightning in a jar on this one. And I get goosebumps just listening to this guitar solo. It's fucking crazy good. Crazy good. Ed, what'd you think of on the one?
So just to really quickly bounce off your "Do you want to play" comment?
Yeah.
Ironically, the band I'm in right now, myself and the guitar player Greg Levine have been learning that song.
Oh, cool.
And the other last week at rehearsal, he's like, "Hey, check this out," and he had half the solo down, and I'm like, "Oh my god,
Wow.
it's
Impressive.
like that is insane."
That's impressive.
But overall, yeah, I agree with all you guys. This song is just what the hell. I think it is everyone's best performance on the album. Every track you listen, break everything down. Listen to the drums, the bass. It is just each one is its own song that come together and make this fantastic song.
Yeah,
It is just adrenaline.
It's not my favorite song on the album, but like you said, man, the individual performances are fucking nails on this one.
Yeah. And then it has like Dave said, the signature like vocal break that's in there that, just it works for them. It always works for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Hardest guitar solo I ever took the time to learn note for note and really get down was if you ever saw the movie Crossroads with Steve Vai.
Yep.
So I learned
yes, we
I
have.
learned Macchio's section in the Crossroads duel. And I learned it actually from a YouTube guy called Eugene's Bag of Tricks. And it took me about 6 months of playing, sitting down for about an hour a day. And I mean, I got it down, but very, very difficult. Can you play that, Dave?
I've tried. I can't hit that yet.
Yeah. I played it. It's funny because I used to try and videotape myself doing it so I could put it on YouTube, whatever. And there would be times when I would like freak out, fuck. Like I get 3/4 of the way through it. And so Delin saw some of these videos and she'd be like, this is what you do when I'm at work.
You make the supercut of just freaking out.
Oh, totally, dude. I'm sure my neighbors like that guy is so fucking weird next door. Okay.
So Desi, are you feeling competitive today?
No. I'm just curious of what you guys took time to learn and what was important to you and stuff like that. Like,
I'm just teasing. Absolutely.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Don't listen.
yeah, no,
Listen. Dave fucking knocks my dick in the dirt on guitar. It's not even
No
close,
way.
So. Yeah.
No
so
way.
There you go.
Yeah,
Dave's
I had like a tab, from one of the guitar magazines where they showed you some of that piece, the Crossroads thing, and
yeah.
I've messed around with it, but it would take months of constant practice to even approach doing that. Steve Vai played all that stuff.
Oh yeah, totally, and it did. And I would literally have to put my my hand in an ice bath. I would practice it so much and play it so much, it was stupid. And I never could play it like Steve Vai. I mean, I could play it clean, but not at the speed he would do. And it was funny because my phone actually has a little thing on it. So if you shoot a video on it, you can speed it up like 1/5%. So I did that, and when I recorded it, I moved very slowly. So when I sped it up, it looked like I was moving at regular speed.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm such a fucking cheese dick. I'm such a fucking cheese dick. But it's funny. Maybe I'll share that with you guys. You'll laugh your fucking asses off. It looks like I'm playing it just like Steve Vai, like note for note, like super fast. It's great.
All right, let's digress.
Yes. So number 6, Jamie's Crying. Michael Anthony's bass and background vocals are exceptional on this. Exceptional. He's the unsung hero on this album. I think we've covered that. He fucking is the super glue that's holding this thing together. David Lee Roth delivers a solid vocal. I appreciate that he toned down some of the crazy improv screaming a little on this one. And it felt like Eddie maybe took this track off a little bit. Like, I mean, he's still fine. He was great. But it felt like he kind of let the rest of the band breathe a little bit on this track. Dave, what'd you think?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Maybe letting somebody else drive the car. A
Yeah.
little more poppy. It's an unusual guitar part. He's throwing in some atonal, notes here and there. That are sort of not bad, but just unusual.
Hmm.
That you might not expect. Um, the disco dance break. Where he kicks in the phase 90. That's really cool. It's with the doubled up hi hat and everything. Um, busting out some cowbell. I've overlooked Al's drums so far on the album.
Yeah.
It's not maybe something that you would notice so far, but they're
Yeah.
perfect. I love his
Yeah.
drumming.
Okay. Yeah. Um, Ed, what did you think of Jamie's Crying?
Uh, Great song. We all know, you know, I don't know. This whole album has me speechless at times. Um, I think Alex Van Halen is probably one of the most underrated drummers ever.
Ugh.
I don't think he was never out there to shine to say, "Hey, look at me." But I think his drums fill every Van Halen song perfectly. I really think, especially in the early days, like this album, Van Halen 2, him and Michael Anthony were just on point as a rhythm section. I mean, hands down, one of the best duos for rhythm.
Oh yeah.
But I really dig. This is where I really started to get that whole '50s vibe of the whole album. Where I'm like, you kind of listen to it and you get like this. It's like a modern, 1978 modern version of like that '50s doo wop love high school stuff. Where boy meets girl, heartbreak, that whole thing. And
Totally.
that's just, like all the next songs just after that kind of gave me that vibe, as heavy as they are. Something about it, I could it just started to dematerialize in my brain when I hear the songs to, hey, this is totally based off of this type of music, the old
Right.
rock and roll.
Yeah. No, totally. I can hear it 100%. I mean, you got to remember the era these guys grew up in.
Exactly.
They listened to a lot of that. It was definitely an influence on them.
Sure.
All right. So track 7 is Atomic Punk. Now, one of these kids is not like the other, this song, and there's a reason why. So, Dave, go ahead and take Atomic Punk.
All right. So we open up the song with Eddie with his guitar, and he's scraping his hand across the strings, with the flanger pedal going, and it's a very creative use of effects that people had not messed around with before that too much. He's making these sounds that back in 1978, you're thinking, what the hell is that? What is going on? What
Yeah.
kind of ray gun bullshit is this? But
Totally.
post-apocalyptic lyric sounded like to me. Um, Almost everything on the record, that they recorded was live. They were all in the same room, pretty much minimal overdubs. They were a band that's been busting their chops in clubs for 5+ years, and you can tell that when you're listening to this. Great
Yeah,
song.
totally. Totally. Ed, what'd you think of Atomic Punk?
I love the aggressiveness of this song. I find like it's a transition song of the period, where it's like, okay, enough with the punk. Let's move towards this. Here's the challenge. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Now accept it and beat me.
Mhm.
In like Dave said, the lyrics are dark. It was, I got the whole the Led Zeppelin vibe off the lyrics, so I would call this a Led Zeppelin meets punk um part 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So this song needed a harder hitting drummer. The snare sound was noticeably weak on this song. I mean, it just was noticeably weak. It stood out. Is like, geez, I wish someone was hitting a little harder here, and these drums were a little more present and just a little bigger sounding. Like you said, Dave, Eddie is bringing some interesting unorthodox things to his sound with the addition of like this heavy sweeping flange. But the one thing I noticed on this, it was funny because I went back and checked it because I'm like, fuck, man, the vocals suck on this song. I'm like, what's going on here? This is the one song in the album Michael Anthony did not sing on. And it's painfully obvious. I mean, Dave is struggling on his own on this song. And when I say that, I don't mean that these vocals are terrible because they're not. Okay. But when you A B it with a 11 song album and it's the one song Michael Anthony doesn't sing on, it's fucking glaring. And it was glaring. And yeah, so that was the shink in the armor on this song for me. But it was a groundbreaking song. They were doing a lot of very interesting things on it, but it's not one of my favorite songs on the album, but it's fine. I do like it. I do like it a lot. I can listen to it over and over. So track 8 is Feel Your Love Tonight. Ed, I know you love this song.
Of course I do. I'm the pop guy.
I know you love this song.
Great groove. Again, back to the 50s vibe, in my opinion. It's a great example of what made Van Halen great. The bass is super active. I think the drums are huge. The guitar is a beast, and the vocals are just huge and full. Again, Michael and Anthony's back, and it's just, I can't say enough about Michael Anthony in general, because, like I said, my introduction to him was 1984, and I was like, and hearing this, I'm like, oh my God, they would have this band is just, if he was able to keep doing this, I think there would be a different outcome with all the future versions of this band. It just, I don't know why they got away from it, or if he was silenced, for whatever reasons. But yeah,
they kind of pushed him to the backseat.
Another song that I played a million times.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with everything you said more. Dave, what did you think of this one?
It's good. It's a little syrupy, a little poppy. Still has that sound. They overdubbed some rhythm guitar underneath the solo, which is a little bit different. Some hand claps, and you have the great vocal harmony, from the band. It's good.
Yeah. I felt like this one was Michael Anthony's showcase on the album. Like they said, we're going to showcase Michael Anthony right here on this song, everything. His incredible bass track, the vocals are fucking over the top iconic. It's all Michael Anthony here. So I think I already asked you guys this, but without Michael Anthony's signature backing vocals and recognizable bass lines on this, is this album really, really good? Or is it amazing?
Probably just good.
Yeah, I think really, really good.
Just good.
Yeah, because when you listen to these vocals, these backing vocals, it is lifting this thing to higher heights. 100 that it would never have got to without it. All right, so track 9, and I'm gonna tip my hat. I wish this was the last song on the album. I really do. I wish they had just said 9 is enough. Let's go out on Little Dreamer, because we'll get to it. All right, well, I got this one. So Little Dreamer, Eddie's sound is it's so huge on this. It's like the Empire State Building. It's ridiculously large. The echo is slightly overplayed on this entire song, though. I wish that they had done the echo on the opening intro riff, brought us in with it, and then backed it down a little bit on everything. But they went the other direction and they pushed it forward on everything on this track. And it takes away from the presence and the readability of the song a little bit, which is a shame. But coincidentally enough, what it did was it made the snare much hotter and much more present. And the drums just sounded bigger on this song. And I felt like this was one of the better snare sounds on the album. But again, in times, Alex's drums were getting lost in the mix on this album. His fills were getting lost. His accents were getting lost. I think they really wanted to just push Eddie Van Halen so far forward on this record
Yeah.
that at times Alex's drums were kind of an afterthought. And I think that's why I was under the impression maybe he wasn't quite as good as he is, because I think a lot of times I wasn't hearing a lot of what he was doing, but I was straining to hear him, and what he was doing was really good. So yeah, that's my thought on Little Dreamer. Dave, take it, and I'll get to Ed last.
Uh,
All right. So yeah, it's a little dark, a little funky. Reminded me more of the vibe of like the Fair Warning album. You
Hmm.
know, the guitar riff is a hook as well in this song.
Oh, fuck yeah.
They took some chances in the recording. Any band today would edit out, but they sort of left it in for that little more live feel. But they really kind of mixed the band in almost all these classic albums a little unusually, where like your point, they really are pushing Eddie um, so far forward. Almost all these albums, he's mixed on one side, and there's an echo chamber of his guitar pan to the other side, and it's left and right. And some people like that, and some people don't. If it was there was a creative decision to maybe produce the sound of the recording a little different, that may have definitely would have changed the sound of these classic albums.
Yeah, I agree. I wish that they had used it like seasoning and not like a main ingredient, but it's
Right.
fine. I love it. It's Eddie Van Halen. Dave, Little Dreamer. Ed, Little Dreamer. Sorry.
sorry about that. Uh, I felt that this song was the maturity on the song. Like they said, okay, here's the album, and now let's show them that these guys are mature. And they put this song out in just the whole sound of the overall song, just fantastic. The chord progression that Eddie plays is just wow. Uh, I really enjoy it. It was a breath of fresh air from everything else. And like you said, if they ended it here, it would have been great.
Yeah.
It oozes David Lee Roth though.
Yeah.
Um, and I love the haunting sound of the backing vocals.
So
I mean,
good.
it's just it gives you chills.
Hmm.
The storytelling, everything, just really full song, a change of pace for the album, change of pace for the band, and it kind of, if when you get to this, you're all of a sudden like, wait, whoa, what's this?
Yeah.
It leaves you wanting something else.
Yeah. And the groove in the verse and the way Dave is singing the verse is some of his best work on the album. And it's him singing back a little bit and just really going with the melody and the sweetness of his voice. I loved it. I thought it was a fucking great track. All right. I know we have to talk about every song on the album. So track 10 is called Ice Cream Man. Dave, what did you think of Ice Cream Man?
Well, I love Ice Cream Man. I get the feeling you guys may not as much. This is actually another cover written by John Brim, which I'm not familiar with his work, but
That's because he wrote Ice Cream Man.
yeah, the beginning is Dave singing and playing the acoustic guitar, like
Yep.
he would do in the live show.
Yep.
He at one point he actually had a acoustic guitar that was shaped like an ice cream bar, and he'd come out with this, just the showman kind of thing. But I love when it kicks in. Great guitar solo. It's this like galactic blues that Eddie's playing, and they're doing their Van Halen thing. It's I love it.
Okay. Okay. Ed, Ice Cream Man?
Uh, I appreciate the song for what it is,
Okay.
but honestly, this song is David Lee Roth putting his foot down, saying, "Look at me." It's it's the way it's acoustic, and then it kicks in. It's great. It's huge. It sounds great, but it's totally mailed in. It seems like everyone but David Lee Roth didn't want to do this.
Yeah. This song is a fucking soft serve ice cream cone melting down your hand on a July day. It's a bummer. So like Dave said, okay, the bass and the drums, they're locked in on this. I mean, it's good. And Eddie ripped a nice solo on it. But oh my god, if I don't fucking hate the words to this song and I don't hate the way Dave sings it, it's just fucking like I can't fast forward past this one quick enough. And I've seen Van Halen live, and he pulls out the fucking acoustic and breaks it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get a fucking slice of pizza. I'll be back. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I'm all set. And then we get the final track on the song. God, I'm on fire. Dave, I'm sorry. You know what? You guys noticed I stuck to the script today pretty well.
All right.
Ed, give us your thoughts on fire.
As much as I said I was okay with them ending with Little Dreamer, I like this song On Fire. I think it's a decent closer. I think it leaves you wanting more. It's definitely not the best song, but it's great energy. I feel at times the lyrics are a bit haunting, but the music feels like an old song, as if they were trying to find their way. I feel like this was before Van Halen became Van Halen. Like, it's a transition of what they were as amateurs to they're not quite pros yet. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. That was a very, very smart observation. This feels like a demo. It feels like an unfinished song. The chorus is fucking beyond basic. I mean, this is like, I just can't. And he's just screaming it at me. I feel like David Lee Roth and Mike Lanthony are just yelling at me. And I just want to say, please stop. The amount of echo on the entire track is fucking laughable. Okay. It's laughable. It's just, it doesn't sound good to me anyway. It just doesn't sound good. It's not a finished song. It's not well recorded. It's not well produced. It's not well written. It doesn't sound finished. And it's a shame that it's the last song on the album. I almost would have preferred it to be Ice Cream Man. And we all know what I think about Ice Cream Man. Dave, what did you think of On Fire?
I liked it. Was
Okay.
kind of a little bit heavier than their other stuff on the album. Sort of heavy metal. Um, I'm sure they had been playing this song for years in the clubs. The guitar harmonics sound like a alarm clock or something. It's more interesting stuff. I feel like it was a close cousin to Atomic Punk. As far as the
Yeah.
feel of the song. But yeah, maybe a little more raw, but it was okay with me.
Okay, I was a little unrefined. Maybe like a redheaded, like second cousin that you just don't really like.
Sure.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Dave, what was your favorite track on the album?
I'd have to go with probably I'm the One. Good song. Buffet of blazing guitar. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I can see that. And Ed, what was your favorite track on Van Halen?
Ain't Talking About Love. I just
Nice,
think
nice.
it's huge, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, great pick. I love that this week we're all going to have a different favorite song. My favorite song on Van Halen is Running with the Devil. I mean, dynamically, it's great. The words are very dark. It's just great. It's a great song. So, all three great picks off a great album. I mean, you can't go wrong. What track would you cut? I will go first.
Let me guess.
Jeez. No, you know what's funny? This can actually surprise you. I would cut Ice Cream Man. I mean, as much as I didn't love On Fire, at least it's a Van Halen song, and Van Halen can't do wrong. When I say On Fire wasn't great, I mean it wasn't great in context with this album. I've heard worse songs, so
Oh,
whatever.
absolutely.
Yeah, we got to bitch about something, or the show would just be like, I fucking love it. Next, um, Ed, what song would you cut?
I would also cut Ice Cream Man.
Okay.
It just doesn't fit on the album at all, and I think it's just too much Dave being Dave.
Yeah, just lick my ice cream cone. I'm David Lee Roth. No thanks. Dave, what song would you cut off of this album?
I wouldn't want to cut any of them, but if I had to, I would probably go with "Feel Your Love Tonight." Just a
Oh
little,
no, really?
yeah, just a little
Oh
Oh,
poppier
I
than
no!
that's
the other stuff, and they could have moved that one to Van Halen too, but
I
I don't know.
I feel like they could have moved that one to like 5150 and had Sammy Hagar sing it, and it would have fit in perfectly. I mean, would you guys agree?
Could be.
Yeah, I could see that being a Cindy song.
Which is kind of a compliment because it shows that that song was actually a little bit ahead of its time for Van Halen from a writing aspect. It sounded like something they would write on a much later album.
Right.
So that's great. Okay, so if we had to replace one member of the band and replace them with another member, who would get the gig and who would get cut? I will go first. And I would cut one Alex Van Halen because he's the only one you can take out of this mix and still have it be Van Halen. And I would replace him with one very talented, very similar playing Neil Peart from Rush. That would be my replacement.
Holy crap!
But his
can you
name's not
imagine
Van
it?
Halen.
Can you imagine it though? Neil Peart? I mean, those busy drums and, I mean, it works. No?
That's
Dave.
a little much.
Okay,
Little much.
Dave. Oh, that's a little much. This guy put in
Stevie
Stevie
Wonder.
Wonder. Okay. Uh Dave, who are you firing and who are you replacing them with?
All right. Well, I don't think you can do it. I mean, each person in the band is an important part of the sound. To me,
Okay.
Obviously Eddie and Alex, their name is Van Halen. You can't kick
Right.
them out of the band.
I
And then
just did.
Mike, David Lee Roth, greatest American rock band of all time for me. Um, if I had to pick one, maybe try, say, Gene Simmons playing bass instead of Michael Anthony. He sings, he plays bass.
Blasphemy!
It might sound
But,
interesting, but who
but
knows?
the funny
Um,
thing about that though, Dave, is though he does do a ton of background vocals for Kiss. It's the opposite of Michael Anthony because he does all the low background. So it would
yeah,
change this
yeah.
album drastically.
But there was, and I hope I'm not stealing this from anybody. Back in 1980, they had a band, Talus, opening for them. The bass
Hmm.
player there was Billy Sheehan, who
Oh
went
shit.
on to play Mr. Big, and before that in the David Lee Roth solo
In
band.
the David Lee Roth band. Yep.
Yeah.
And there was rumors that they were trying to get rid of Mike and trying to get Billy Sheehan in the band. And that I don't think that would have been great. I don't think that would have worked so much. It was great with the David Lee Roth band with Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan, fantastic. But I don't know how much that would have flown if they had actually gotten him in Van Halen.
Yeah, no,
Well,
that's a completely different vibe.
Yeah,
well,
What
yeah,
Billy
and
plays compared to Michael.
and they're taking this amazing bass player that they're already smothering and fucking handcuffing, and they're going to replace him with an even busier bass player that they're going to what? Handcuff Billy Sheehan? No.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why they've seemed like over the years to just try to push Michael Anthony down and put him in the back seat, and I don't get what that's all about. But who
It
knows?
feels like jealousy to me, honestly. I think that Eddie and Alex Van Halen realized that their signature sound was coming a big part from Michael Anthony. I mean, it's Eddie Van Halen's guitar first, but Michael Anthony is the signature sound of Van Halen. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah,
old
I
Van
would definitely
Halen.
agree with that.
Ed, who are you firing and who are you replacing them with? Go.
I am with you, Des. I would replace Alex Van Halen, but I would replace him with Tommy Aldridge.
Ooh, Tommy Aldridge. I do
I think
like that.
Tommy would be the perfect fit for this band.
I'd like to change my pick to Tommy Aldridge as well. No, you're right though, because he hits a little harder. His snare is, the right sound. I think that Alex's sound is a big problem with one of my problems with him. It's just kind of a soft sound. But yeah, Tommy Aldridge, fucking best pick of the day. You win the prize for the recast. I love it.
Did that make
Okay.
up for my Stevie Wonder comment?
Nothing will ever make up for Stevie Wonder replacing Perry Farrell in Jane's Addiction. Okay. Dude, I talked about on the movie podcast last night how Jane's Addiction is sitting at the bottom and it just fucking chaps my ass. Um, so, okay, let's give some final thoughts and some Watt scores. I'm going to go last this time because last night on the movie podcast, I was called a score whore. So I think I want to see what you guys say before I give my bloated score. Dave,
I think you just don't want to screw up your score because your score has been so far off so far
I
than the
think you
rest of
might be
us.
right. That's a hot take. Dave, final thoughts on the album and your Watt score.
All right. One of the greatest debut albums by any band. Um, Consistently, working themselves crazy in the clubs, on fire, ready to unleash on the world. Greatest guitar player for me, Eddie Van Halen. I've been playing guitar for a long time. He's always been, my main guy before I got into, Ace Frehley or Jimmy Page or any of those other guys. It's been this guy. Um, to me, greatest frontman of all time, David Lee Roth. Uh, I'm giving it a 99.
A 99
Shameless
Watts.
Van Halen fan.
Woo! That's a hot take.
Wow.
Okay, Ed, give us your final thoughts and your Watt score on Van Halen, Van Halen.
All right. Over you can't say enough about this album. This album is just might be the perfect album, especially for your first album. Talk about pressure. You put out this piece and then you have to follow it up. Um, it's just it's epic. It's when I discovered it, I just can't get enough of it. However, I think again, knowing what happened with Michael Anthony and how each album got progressively less, in my opinion, I think he's just totally underappreciated and is, like you said, Des, he's signature. This kind of is a great example of why rhythm, specifically bass, is so important when everyone seems to throw it away. Without his backing lines and just moving the songs, I think Van Halen wouldn't be what they were. They'd just be like in Ingve, where, per my opinion, you can throw Ingve right in the trash.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. Fucking
but
Bay.
David Lee Roth also set the bar for this. You don't have to be a great singer; you have to be a great performer. You need to take the crowd. You need to hold them in your hand and just give them what you think they need, and they're going to like it whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
So really, it's just they set the bar, I think, and changed music the way Nirvana did.
Yes.
My Watt score for this is 92.85.
92.85. It's funny. Something I took out of your final thought was, about David Lee Roth. He's not a great singer, but he's a very good singer. Like when you compare him to a guy like Vince Neil, who is just not a singer. He's not a singer. He's a guy that looked great, that got a shot to play in Motley Crue because he looked good. Uh, David Lee Roth outsings Vince Neil every day of the week. Vince can't carry a note. I'm sorry if that's unpopular take, but he's just not good. And David Lee Roth is good. He could pick up a guitar and play some acoustic at a party and it would be just fine. Okay, so that's a 92.85. And I think we're going to have a new champion. So let me give you my final thoughts. This is an amazing album. It was breaking ground. It was way ahead of its time. We get a young, budding future guitar hero reinventing the way the instrument would be played. But with that being said, a full length album being recorded in 3 weeks is a tall order for anybody. And it showed up a little bit in the production, specifically the overuse of echo. They didn't take the time to refine Michael Anthony's bass sound, which is a shame because the bass was amazing, the execution, but the sound was farty. If you listen to it, you'd be like, ugh. Alex's drums, the accents to Phil's got lost in the mix from time to time. Again, it's a shame. Um, and of course, I'm nitpicking here, and especially since it was recorded in 1978. But that's what I heard. I absolutely love David Lee Roth as a frontman, and his overall performance, coupled with Michael Anthony backing him up, was one of the all-time greats for me on any album. this album is pushing a solid 94.8 watts. I'm going to come in right between you guys. This is the album that started it all. So, Ed, will you please calculate these scores? We have got 99 watts from Dave. We have got 92.85 watts from you and 94.8 watts from me.
All right. The total watt score for Van Halen is 95.55. This
You
is
know
a
what?
beast.
That is right where it belongs, because when I did this, I said it's almost perfect, but I have to take off 5 points for the last two tracks. And it came out to 95.55. So I'm very happy with that score. And Dave, I always love this part of the show. Will you please
Yeah.
tell us where this score of 95.55 lands Van Halen's Van Halen on the Breaking Vinyl charts?
All right, Van Halen 1 becomes our new number 1,
Nice. It
beating
fucking
out
deserved it.
Purple Rain.
Oh, thank God. This song fucking beats Purple Rain in the head.
Yeah, this album's just so monstrous.
How dare Purple Rain be the fucking number one album? Oh shit. um, okay, so it's funny. This week on the movie podcast, we decided to go through our 50 movies we've done. Dylan took her day off and she calculated every score we had ever done and she made a list. And one of my favorite movies of all times, Neighbors, with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, got butchered by those two morons that I reviewed it with and was at the bottom.
Okay.
And so I wanted to ask you guys, have you guys ever seen that movie Neighbors with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd?
Yes,
I don't think I have.
Ed, did you like it?
I liked it, but I agree with your two boob partners.
They're gonna fucking love that.
It was
Okay.
not that good.
Oh fuck.
I appreciate it for what it was, but oh boy.
Oh, because Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in their prime. It doesn't get any better. Okay.
Yeah, they were great. They were great.
Since I have the next album pick, I will be telling you and the listeners what I will be picking. And this is going to surprise you all because I'm throwing you a curveball. So when I decided to do this podcast, we did want to bring people albums they knew. And we wanted to bring, big hits that people grew up with and identified with so they could enjoy the podcast. But I also wanted to bring albums to the listeners that maybe they hadn't heard to try to, turn them on to something that I love or you love or Dave loves. So for next week, we will be breaking down the 1989 self-titled album Junkyard by the band Junkyard. This fucking album slaps.
Yep.
Every song on it is a motherfucker. The playing is great. The production is great. Oh God, how I fucking love this album. And I struggled with doing it because I know we're a new podcast and maybe people will see it and not listen. But here's what I challenge you as a listener. Do some homework. Listen to this album during the week. Come in with it in your mind and see what you think. I think you're going to fucking love this album and it's going to go into your rotation. Listen, just type in Breaking Vinyl anywhere and you'll find us. It's all there. And like I always say, I share both shows on both podcasts. If you like movie reviews, look for our sister podcast. Hey, did you ever see that movie? We did The Fifth Element this week. I went completely nuts. I lost my mind. I fought with my wife. It was great. So that's it. Until next time, take those records out of the sleeve and let the music breathe. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Guys, that was a